What if there were places where time slows, faith deepens, and millions find meaning beyond the ordinary? These aren't just destinations, they are the spiritual heartbeat of the world. High in the Himalayan kingdom of Bhutan, where jagged peaks tear at the clouds and forests of blue pine cling to precipitous slopes, an extraordinary structure appears as if by magic: Paro Taktsang, the Tiger's Nest Monastery, defying both gravity and expectation. The monastery's sanctity begins with the story of Guru Rinpoche, revered as the second Buddha, and credited with bringing Buddhism to Bhutan in the 8th century. According to legend, Guru Rinpoche flew to this cliffside on the back of a tigress, an emanation of his consort, arriving in a blaze of supernatural power. Within the caves of what is now the monastery, he meditated for 3 months, subduing negative energies that obstructed spiritual progress and blessing the site as a place of deep transformation. Built in 1692 around the caves where Guru Rinpoche meditated, the monastery is an architectural marvel. The fact that such an intricate structure could be constructed on a sheer, vertical cliffside speaks to both Bhutanese craftsmanship and the spiritual dedication of its builders. Although a fire destroyed much of the complex in 1998, Bhutan painstakingly rebuilt it with historic accuracy, reaffirming its cultural and religious significance. Today, it remains a vibrant centre of Buddhist practice. Monks continue to chant, meditate, and maintain the sacred traditions that have been alive here for centuries. Stretching across the rolling landscapes of Europe and culminating at the shrine of the Apostle St. James in Santiago de Compostela, the Camino de Santiago stands as one of the world's most enduring and transformative pilgrimage routes. The sanctity of the Camino begins with the relics of St. James the Greater, one of Jesus' closest disciples. According to tradition, his remains were discovered in the 9th century in Galicia, in what is now Santiago de Compostela. The site quickly became a beacon for Christian pilgrims throughout medieval Europe, comparable in reverence to Jerusalem and Rome. By the 12th century, the Camino had blossomed into a vast network of routes: French, Portuguese, Northern, Primitivo, each converging toward the cathedral where St. James is honoured. Monasteries, hospices and entire towns sprang up to aid pilgrims, giving rise to a cultural corridor that shaped European identity. More than a route, the Camino is a meeting place for the world. On any given stretch of the path, one might meet pilgrims from dozens of countries, each walking for a different reason: a fresh start, a healing process, a spiritual renewal, or simply curiosity. Rising stark and majestic from the rugged desert of the Sinai Peninsula, Mount Sinai, also known as Jebel Musa, holds a place of unparalleled reverence in the spiritual history of the world. For Jews, Christians and Muslims alike, it is one of the most sacred landscapes on earth. The sanctity of Mount Sinai is rooted in the momentous biblical event in which Moses ascended the mountain and received the 10 Commandments, a covenant that shaped the moral consciousness of entire civilizations. This encounter between the divine and a prophet is one of the most significant spiritual events recorded in the Abrahamic traditions. In Judaism, Sinai is the birthplace of the Torah's central commandments, an unprecedented moment when God's voice was said to have echoed across a trembling mountain. In Christianity, it is the site where God's law was revealed, foreshadowing the teachings that would come centuries later. In Islam, Sinai is honored as a place touched by divine presence and a station in Moses' prophetic journey. At the foot of Sinai rests St. Catherine's Monastery, one of the world's oldest continuously functioning Christian monasteries. Built in the 6th century by Emperor Justinian, the monastery serves as both a guardian of sacred memory and a living testament to devotion across centuries. Hidden in the highlands of northern Ethiopia, the ancient town of Lalibela stands as one of humanity's most astounding spiritual achievements. The sanctity of Lalibela begins with King Lalibela, the 12th–13th century ruler who sought to create a new Jerusalem during a time when travel to the Holy Land was nearly impossible. The result was a complex of 11 interconnected rock-hewn churches, each sculpted from the living bedrock using nothing but chisels, hammers, and unwavering faith. These are not structures built stone by stone. They are negative architecture, carved downward into the earth. Their creation is less an act of engineering and more an act of spiritual expression. Lalibela embodies more than religious devotion. It encapsulates Ethiopia's unique Christian heritage, which has remained distinct and deeply rooted for nearly 2 millennia. The rock churches preserve not only architectural genius, but also cultural memory, iconography, and spiritual literature. On the banks of the sacred Ganges River lies Varanasi, a city that has been alive with prayer, ritual, and spiritual longing for over 3 millennia. According to ancient tradition, Varanasi was founded by Lord Shiva, the great ascetic and cosmic dancer, making it one of Hinduism's holiest cities. It is said that the city rests upon Shiva's trident and remains eternally protected by him. The spiritual pulse of Varanasi beats strongest along the Ghats, the long series of steps descending to the river Ganga. The Ganges is revered as both a goddess and a purifier, capable of washing away the burdens of earthly existence. Varanasi is home to thousands of temples, from small shrine alcoves tucked into alleyways to iconic landmarks such as Kashi Vishwanath Temple, dedicated to Lord Shiva. These sacred places preserve ancient spiritual lineages and continue to be centers of daily worship, pilgrimage, and celebration. In the quiet plains of Bihar, beneath the shade of a serene Bodhi tree, lies Bodh Gaya, a place where human history, spiritual awakening, and timeless peace converge. Revered by millions across the world, it is the site where Siddhartha Gautama attained enlightenment, becoming the Buddha, and lighting the path that continues to guide humanity more than 2,500 years later. According to tradition, Siddhartha, after years of searching, asceticism, and meditation, seated himself under a fig tree, determined not to rise until he understood the nature of suffering. Here, after a night of profound inner struggle, clarity dawned, and he attained Bodhi, or enlightenment. That tree, now known as the Bodhi tree, and the ground beneath it have since become the spiritual epicenter of Buddhism. At the heart of Bodh Gaya stands the Mahabodhi Temple, an architectural masterpiece and UNESCO World Heritage Site. Its soaring pyramidal structure, intricately carved stone railings, and serene statues create an atmosphere that is simultaneously grand and deeply meditative. Within its sanctum sits a gilded statue of the Buddha, symbolizing the moment he called the earth to witness his enlightenment. This posture has become one of the most iconic in Buddhist iconography. Few places on earth hold such universal significance. Bodh Gaya is not only sacred, it is a living symbol of the human quest for truth and liberation. Rising from the misty jungles of Cambodia like a vision from another age, Angkor Wat stands as one of humanity's most extraordinary sacred monuments. Constructed in the early 12th century by King Suryavarman II, Angkor Wat was dedicated to Vishnu, the preserver god of Hinduism. Unlike most Khmer temples oriented to the east, Angkor Wat faces west, a direction associated with Vishnu, inviting interpretations tied to cosmology, eternity, and the cycle of life and death. Its colossal scale is staggering. The temple complex spans over 400 acres, making it the largest religious monument on Earth. Its layout reflects Mount Meru, the mythological center of the universe, surrounded by sacred mountain ranges and cosmic oceans. Though built as a Hindu temple, Angkor Wat has also been a deeply sacred site for Buddhism for centuries. After the decline of the Khmer Empire, Buddhist monks safeguarded the temple, transforming it into a living sanctuary of meditation and ritual. This spiritual continuity kept the temple alive, even as the surrounding cities fell into ruin. Today, saffron-robed monks can still be seen offering prayers in its ancient chambers, maintaining an unbroken lineage of devotion that bridges Hindu and Buddhist traditions. In the deserts of western Saudi Arabia lies Mecca, the spiritual center of Islam and one of the most revered places on earth. For more than 14 centuries, Muslims from every region, culture and language have turned their hearts toward this sacred city. Mecca's holiness begins with its deep connection to Prophet Muhammad, born here in the year 570 CE. It was within this city that he first received the revelations that would eventually form the Quran, the holy book of Islam. The house where he lived, the paths he walked, and the mountains that surround the city remain places of immense spiritual significance. At the heart of Mecca stands the Kaaba, a cube-shaped sanctuary draped in black silk and gold embroidery. Encircled by the vast Masjid al-Haram, the Kaaba is the epicenter of Islamic worship. Millions of pilgrims circumambulate it in the ritual known as tawaf, symbolizing unity, humility, and the eternal connection between humanity and the divine. Every year, millions of Muslims from around the world journey to Mecca to perform Hajj, one of the 5 pillars of Islam. This sacred pilgrimage, required once in a lifetime for all physically and financially able Muslims, traces the footsteps of prophets. For Muslims, Mecca is not merely historic, it is a living testament to the foundations of their faith. Enclosed within the ancient walls of Rome lies Vatican City, the smallest independent state in the world, yet one of the most spiritually significant places on earth. The sanctity of Vatican City begins with its profound connection to St. Peter, one of Jesus' apostles, and recognized as the first Bishop of Rome. According to tradition, St. Peter was martyred and buried on Vatican Hill in the 1st century CE. His tomb became a place of pilgrimage for early Christians, and centuries later, St. Peter's Basilica was constructed atop this sacred site. Today, the basilica stands as one of the most magnificent spiritual structures in the world, a symbol of continuity that bridges ancient Christianity with the modern age. Few places blend spirituality and artistic brilliance as seamlessly as the Sistine Chapel. Here, Michelangelo's ceiling and Last Judgment fresco create a sacred atmosphere unlike any other. The Sistine Chapel is also the setting for one of the most important spiritual events in the Catholic world, the conclave, where cardinals gather in prayer to elect a new pope. In these moments, the chapel becomes not just a masterpiece, but the epicenter of global spiritual leadership. Few places hold as much spiritual gravity, historical depth, and emotional resonance as Jerusalem. Perched on the hills of the Judean landscape, this ancient city is revered by billions across the world and across three major world religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. For Jews, Jerusalem is the holiest city on earth. It has been the spiritual heart of Jewish life for more than 3,000 years. At the core of its sanctity lies the Temple Mount, where the first and second temples once stood. These were the central places of Jewish worship, pilgrimage, and ritual, and the site where divine presence was believed to dwell. Today, the Western Wall, a surviving remnant of the Second Temple complex, stands as the most sacred, accessible site in Judaism. Here, millions gather to pray, reflect, and place written prayers between ancient stones worn smooth by centuries of devotion. For Christians around the world, Jerusalem is the city where the story of salvation unfolded. Followers of Jesus come to walk the Via Dolorosa, the path believed to mark his journey to crucifixion. The route culminates at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which encompasses both Golgotha, where Jesus was crucified, and the empty tomb where Christians believe he rose from the dead. For Muslims, Jerusalem is the third holiest city after Mecca and Medina, revered for its sacred associations with prophets and revelation. On the southern side of the Temple Mount stands the Al-Aqsa Mosque, one of the earliest and most significant houses of Islamic worship. Nearby rises the Golden Dome of the Rock, marking the spot from which Muslims believe the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven during the night journey. Jerusalem is not simply a city. It is a symbol of humanity's enduring search for meaning, identity, and the divine.